Hey, how's it going? It's Justin McDonald here with more results for you. I like to call this results radio, even though you can see me. And uncurious, bored customer or customers cannot be long held by a leash braided from a brand. So, obviously, you can't hold your customers by a leash anyway, but you're not going to do it on brand alone. And there's multiple reasons why. I got this quote from Dan Kennedy, of course, and it's a book I finished recently, The No BS Guide to Brand Building by Direct Response, the ultimate no holds barred plan to creating and profiting from a powerful brand without buying it. How about that for a title? But for short, it's No BS Guide to Brand Building by Direct Response, or you could just say No BS Guide to Brand Building. And what's fascinating about this book, and you might find it fascinating too, is I'm actually going to be giving one of these away. Um, Over the next couple weeks or so, I'll be giving at least one copy of this book away. So anybody that's watching this or following me, direct message me, and I'll make sure I'll go out of my way to make sure that you're signed up at least for the drawing. So it's a really good book, and you might know somebody that could benefit from it too. So that's why I bring it up, because you can't survive off brand alone. Uh, Now, you can think of even like when it comes to music, or if it comes to like movies or something, like if you go and watch a good movie and then it gets to the end, I mean, you're not going to just go and watch the movie immediately the next day. I mean, some people might, but you're not going to sustainably watch it every day just because it's a good movie, because like it's got a great title. Um, Same thing with books, but if you do find a good book that is like in your field of study, you probably should read it several times. But you're not going to be able to keep the customer as a customer just because like your logo is cool, or even if like whatever it is that you did was great. It doesn't necessarily mean that a customer is going to just be with you for life because you have a great brand. And that's what made this book so great too, is there's also mentioning of the guy that wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, Mark Victor Hansen, and he was like not only a brilliant author, but he was like one of the best business authors ever to mankind. He sold so many of those Chicken Soup for the Soul books, right? There's like a Chicken Soup for the Soul for like everything. And I mean, as of right now, their stock's not doing real well. I know that because I own some of it, but like for a long time, Chicken Soup for the Soul was a household name, and they actually started partnering and like doing brand licensing, which is pretty cool because they were able to transform that excitement that was from reading their books, which was like feel good stories. You know, Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's what chicken soup is supposed to make you feel, right? Like someone's taking care of you. It's like a warms your soul kind of stuff. So when it was time to sell the company, when it was time to license it, like you know what I mean, like it was like a match made in heaven, I guess you could say, to like partner with like Campbell's Soup, for instance, or whatever, and maybe they would have you know, like a story, I think, and like one of the stories from Chicken Soup for the Soul inside like their label. And like they were able to sell more books that way and stuff like that too. So, um, but the back of the book too, it's like build your brand, don't buy it. Um, I know took down a couple notes too, and that's like a very good point in innovation too, if you think about it. You always want to be like adding value and plussing things. Um, even like you could just think of even like your favorite toothpaste, right? Like whatever that is. Like if most of them don't drive a lot of curiosity and their message is boring, right? It's informative, it's useful information, but it's boring, especially as you get older. Yeah, I know what it does. They all do the same thing. So like because of that, things like price will differentiate. You know what I mean? Whether a customer buys Crest or Colgate or what, because I mean they're, you know, as far as marketing goes, they broke all the rules and laws there. You know what I mean? They're boring, which is a law in marketing you don't ever want to be, and there's nothing curious about their toothpastes. But there are companies out there that have been doing this actually. I know there's like a sensitive toothpaste that I was using that I was looking at the other day, and it was like $7 or $8 for a tube. I'm not kidding. You probably know what I'm talking about. And this company, like their toothpaste would be a little bit more, but it's funny because they have like 20 different kinds of the same toothpaste that all have the same main ingredient, but they'll each box will be like, it'll just have like a different benefit or feature like highlighted, I feel like, and then it gives it like a different flavor or a different color, but it's like it's the same glop, right? We call it glop because that's what it is. It's all glop. And I know that I'm taking that right from Dan Kennedy too. It's like, and some other entrepreneurs, like it, if you're just selling like a commodity or what your deliverable is, when it's like a commodity like that, it's just like glop. It could be makeup, it could be lotion, it could be toothpaste, it could be shampoo, soap. Um, and a lot of the times it's all the same thing. It's just like marketed different to different audiences. Like think about the micro beads that are in certain like, what are micro beads? What do they do? I don't know, but like I know that a lot of these companies sell things off their shelves because they have micro beads in it. Like we're like, oh cool, I want that one over the other one that's just like plain. You get what I'm saying? Like the plain Jane one will, yeah, I mean, people that's trying to save money will get that one, but like people that want a little excitement in their life, which is a lot of people, they're gonna get the one with the micro beads in it. It's got cool colors and it's got like a nice little story, and like we support this and that and donate money, and you feel like you're doing something good. Um, oh yeah, and I was just thinking too, like when it comes to like if you really wanna like take this and go somewhere with it, right? I'm giving you something right now. Um, like think about uh, I'm trying. I know two companies. I'm trying to think of a third one. Um, I think I got a third one. Okay, so the company Apple, the band The Grateful Dead, and Disney all do something like this, and it's like they have like a vault almost. And that's like a great thing you could do if you do sell products, if you are a commodity, is have like a limited release appeal. Okay, McDonald's too. We'll say four because McDonald's has like toys that come with a Happy Meal, and they'll have like a limited release and stuff like that. And back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and earlier 2000s, I know my grandparents did, but also like you could do a deeper dive on this, but McDonald's toys were like huge. I don't know if they still are, but as far as like having value, like I remember even my grandparents having catalogs that would say how much certain sets were, and they would have them all wrapped up, and like, and honestly, they still exist somewhere, and they could be worth money, but that's not the point. Like, I mean, no, you know what? I'm digging into that one. That is kind of the point. All right, so somewhere in this world, and I know like my relatives that would probably be possessing this somewhere in some attic would probably like aren't that motivated to sell this stuff on eBay. Maybe they are, maybe not, but like I know that they had like hundreds and hundreds of these McDonald's the toys that come with Happy Meals. I remember like they would even have like basically the display, the box would come in. Obviously, they would be all unwrapped, like every edition, like whatever it was. And now these were my grandparents, rest in peace. They were not they they didn't have like a strong emotional connection to even a lot of these characters and shows that they were releasing all this stuff on. There was like this I gotta collect them all like perceived value. Still going live, right? I gotta check once in a while. There's still like this like perceived value. Oh yeah, and that's another one too. If you can like create like a collect them all thing too, because like a lot of these, especially McDonald's was so good at it too. Be like collect all four, and like watch old '90s and '80s commercials and stuff when they're showing things that come with Happy Meals. Like look at how they're driving the sale of cheeseburgers and French fries and soda, which is what they make the most money on, by the way. Is obviously the soda and the fries, but like that's what they're like really trying to sell more of, and they're like collect all four of these 101 Dalmatians toys or uh, Flintstones or whatever it was popular in the 80s or 90s, and it was like, or these collector glasses, and it was like it wasn't necessarily driving the sale of the toys. You get what I'm saying? Like that drive was driving the sale of the food, because it's like you had to get the Happy Meal to get the toys. Now I know my grandparents would bypass getting the Happy Meals, but they would still probably eat the food. And honestly like it was weird for us because it's like don't open those. Those could be worth money. Hess does this too. All right, so I'm gonna go off a couple tangents here. Hess would do this too. I don't know if they still do it, but like every Christmas they would come out with a different Hess truck. It would have like this exclusivity from it. It was like, here's the next Hess truck this year. And I hate this stupid jingle in my head. I remember too, every year, right around Christmas time, you would see the Hess commercial, and then it would be all dramatic and beep beep, and all the sirens and everything. I remember getting a few of those too, and I remember getting those from the same grandparents for Christmas or whatever, my birthday. They'd be like, "Don't open it!" Like, oh, you know what I mean? We're kids. We'd be like smashing them, throwing them, like, what kids do. And they would just get so mad, like, oh no, they're gonna be worth money someday, this and that. And granted, some of them are, but like, what's more important for a child growing up? Like, preserving the value of some action figures so he could be like that guy that's like 30 or 40 years old living in his parents' basement, and he's got like a whole line of action figures that are still in the box. Like, come on. Let kids, their toys, they break them, they smash them. If they don't, you donate them as they get older. Then some other kids can play with them. Granted, if they're not too full of germs and dangerous, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I just thought that was funny. But like Disney does a great job at the vault. Grateful Dead too. I'll get to that one in a moment. But like Disney would have, you've seen these before. They're worth money too, as far as I know. Like these white clamshell VHS movies. I mean, they're classic, right? Like all the Disney classics would be on these. Not at one time though. Like they would periodically, I don't know how often it was, somebody out there probably knows, but like or sometimes they would do it maybe even not like predictable, like not in a predictable way. Like maybe they would just do it like staggered, like once a month, once every few months, maybe a couple at a time. I don't know, but they would call it like releasing it from the vault or something like that. And they would drop these Disney movies like one at a time or something like that. And it was like you should it's it's something that they've definitely, as far as I know, I don't really do a good job as far as I know with it anymore because I don't really see the commercials and you know what I mean, with how people are able to get movies and the platforms that they use them on. I don't know if it's gonna, you know what I mean, but like go back and find those too if you can. You could probably find like YouTubes or something like that where you could see like all the Disney drops of different movies, and like that is like you could if you could take any of those examples I said and put that in your business, you know what I mean? Even if you had like four different colors, like collect all four. Like people like have this like I gotta get them all. Like they already have the OCD. You might as well profit from it in a good way. You know what I mean? They already like what you have. But if you just sold like one in one color, I mean, yeah, you could still do business. But like if you have like a collect them all like mentality attached to it, it really can like it's just money that's on the table that you probably just didn't see what was there. So yeah, the Grateful Dead would do that too. Like the Grateful Dead would have certain shows that they had recorded or albums or whatever they did, and they kind of tucked them away. Maybe there were like some rare studio tapes or whatever that they didn't really let the whole general public get to, or maybe somebody was taping the show and they just kept it like lock and key, and then they would do the same thing. They would release these albums from the vault, and there was actually three of them too that were like their main like they were like actually considered studio albums themselves. I'm pretty sure it'd be like one from the vault, two from the vault, three from the vault. But like during that time, and the fans that are already of the band like flock to that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, I got that rare. You know what I mean? Nowadays, like the way things are released, it's kind of hard to imagine that. But now like when it comes to music and bands too, like that's there's a whole new revolution going on with records too, and you gotta wonder why, because music today is like all MP3s and people streaming music, but there was a time where music was on vinyl and rock. I mean, when rock and roll was like, you know, when real rock and roll to me actually existed, and these companies, these bands. Hold on one second. I mean, they would act. I just had to take one down too. Like they had. Like this is like marketing like 101 too. Like think about how bands used to have to sell records. This came out in 1969 in the Court of King's Crimson King. It's King Crimson. That's the name of the group. And they're an awesome progressive rock band. But look at that album cover, right? But that's another thing about the records themselves is like you could like hang it on the wall as art, and also like the way they like a lot of these bands, like I was calling them companies too, like they could understand that, you know what I mean, like hearing the same songs and hits after a while is going to not make them like immune to it, but like bored after a while. Like people want new and fresh stuff, like even like with artists today. And so if you go and follow like any bands before like 2000 especially, like they were pumping out almost, they were trying to, a lot of bands would try to pump out an album like every year, maybe a couple of times a year they would release albums, because they were trying to like hang on to this like enthusiasm, because like, you know, if you just come out with one hit song, and one album, like sometimes in some rare instances it might stick, but most of the artists knew that you have to keep creating new and fresh and exciting and not boring content to keep these people strung along on this journey. You know, like I know I just kind of like stumbled on that one a little bit too, but like, you know, you could take a lot from music, uh, older music too, and like this, not only like the way it sounds, but the way it was marketed. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just like I'm pulling up so many albums here, and I'm just like, you know, like you touch it and feel like that. This is why I feel like there's a whole new revolution with records too, is because, you know, MP3s and like just having like the digital file, it's boring after a while. It's not very exciting. Like, are you gonna invite somebody over to your house and be like, look at my like, whoa, look at my iPod shuffle, like look at my, look at my digital albums. And I mean, I have a digital record of all my records, I guess you could say, on an app where I can actually be like, these are all the records I have, right? Actual records. But like, it's not as fun as actually having them and being able to play them. And I know some people are like, oh, they want the perfect the perfect polished quality of a digital file, but you know, I like the cracks and pops a little bit and stuff. It gives it a little bit of authenticity. And you gotta think too, like when it comes to records, like whenever like the technology changes, a lot of things change in art too. And I'm going off on a different tangent here, but that's okay. Um, I know some people will disagree with me on this, but that's okay. Now, I think that what the biggest problem is with music today is that the format is so open and digital that it doesn't have that it's like it's creating this uncurious and bored atmosphere, I feel. And you know, we used to have things like record drops and record releases too, when your favorite band would drop a record at a record shop that used to be in like everybody's main street would have like a record shop, and they would go there, and you know what I mean, like there was just this feeling you got when you could be like the only person on your block to have like this physical uh, material that you could put on your record player or a tape or a CD. It's just like every time it changed, like when it went to record, when it went to tape, when it went to CD, when it like the format changes, and the band has to actually adapt to it. Like that's something in business too. Like when you think of a record, right? Like each side can only play, I don't know. I'm gonna guess most records can probably only hold like 45 minutes worth of music on each side, maybe less. I don't know. I want to say average probably at a good half hour on each side. So if you think of each album being like an hour, but think about it like a cassette tape too, right? Cassette tapes are what, 60 minutes or 90 minutes long in most cases per tape. So like unless you wanted to have another piece of material where you have to sell it for more money, which is fine. You can, they did do that. You can have double albums. Like, do you see, like you have to like put yourself within you have to like be confined within these boundaries of being on a 30-minute, 10-minute, 60-minute format. And then same thing with the radio. Like if you want your song to be on the radio, you could have the coolest song you could have the coolest song ever, but like unless it's like Stairway to Heaven or Freebird, You know what I mean? If it's over 5 minutes long, the likelihood that you're going to get past the college station is not really good. You know what I mean? Like back, I'm just talking about like back when it was more important to get on the radio. I mean, it might still be. I don't know if it is or not, but I'm just saying like, so like all like that's what I was trying to say. Like as the technology changes, so did the artists. Like they would have to adapt to that. You know what I mean? So like when it came to like a CD, like there started becoming like a little bit more room to like do all these things because like of the digital tools that were in place that didn't exist before, like in the 80s and 70s or whatever. And then when you have like Pro Tools and MP3s and people stopped using CDs, then it was just like Wild West of like, and like sometimes like not having any boundaries at all, I feel like makes it harder to produce the art. I don't know why. I like when it's like all I have is a pen and piece of paper and I'm writing, or like a typewriter and a piece of paper or whatever it is, like when I feel like, or like time, right? When you like set a timer, like when I feel like you put it like you put, yeah, you can measure it, like here's how long it's going to be, and here's the tools I have, right? Here's the tools I have right now, that are around me, like my problems or resources, whatever I got right now are my tools, and this is how much time I got. I mean, that's how artists and creators are basically able to do their craft, because if it's just open ended, and it's, I guess, I don't know, like if it's open ended, I just feel like it's, when things are too loose, I feel like it's harder to like be relevant and resonate with people because it's like too high in the sky. It's too like, like I feel like when some things have like boundaries, like, hey, even this live thing, I know I'm gonna go off into a tangent, but I'm gonna obviously cap it off like at a half hour or something. You get what I'm saying? Like, so like everything like has to have like a time limit, and like and boundaries in order for like, I feel like the artist to really like push themselves and get the content out, because if it's just like open ended, they might just like screw around and just never really get to the point because it's just open ended. So like, whenever somebody's got like stage time, or if they're on a Zoom thing or a conference call, like, or if you have an appointment with somebody, it could be a doctor, your dentist, a lawyer, you know what I mean? These are all scheduled appointments, and for a reason too. They're not just open ended. You don't go to a doctor's and it's like, I could just hang out for 3 hours, right? Like, I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to in the waiting room, but like when you have your actual procedure and you're talking to the doctor, you're talking to your lawyer, it's not open end. I mean, yeah, it's going to be open ended if you want to be. If you're getting charged by the hour, they'll gladly charge you by the hour. But see, that's another thing too with artists that were in the studio. It could be an art studio, it could be a music studio. Same thing with today. If you got to rent studio time to produce a record, you know what I mean? Like, that's also what's going to push out that content for that artist. In any case, in every album, they're like, you have to go to the studio, and you have, the band's going to be together. It's not very easy sometimes too to get some bands all on the same planet, in the same mood, in the same room on the same day for more than, and get along without hurting each other for more than maybe a couple hours sometimes. So like, hey, maybe that's all they had to pump out some songs that day, or in general, or whatever, for for the next few months. So like, so yeah, when it's crunch time, when a band plays a show, and they have an opener act and a feature act, like, what I mean, same thing. They have to have like it cut off and start at a certain time, and then you go back to the radio too. Like, you're not gonna get your hit on the radio if it's 7-8 minutes long, and it's, like I said, it's not like Freebird or Stairway to Heaven, or like a handful of other songs that are like that long that they actually surprisingly play on the radio sometimes, the mainstream radio, I mean. So yeah, you always want to be innovating and stuff. You always want to create like a little bit of interest and curiosity and mystery. Like, and like whatever it is that you have. Like once you kind of scratch that itch for your client or your prospect, like then they're just like, I'm good. You know what I mean? So like I think that you want to kind of like leave your client with like almost like a little cliffhanger, almost like, I wonder what they're gonna do next. I wonder what they're gonna come out with next, or like I was saying it towards the beginning too, like having that collect them all kind of, mentality too. Like they gotta, you know what I mean? They got 3 of them. Like I can't wait till I get my next paycheck so I can get the 4th one and have all 4 on my shelf. And like I said, sometimes it could be the exact same thing. There's artists that do things like that too, and it's just like they're just different colors, So I think that's all I have for you right now for today. Have a lovely day. Thanks for watching or listening, and you can go to results-required.com to get my free breakthrough results blueprint and be on my daily email list. And I send pretty cool emails too if you want that. So have a nice day.